Good morning, everybody. I hope you are able to have an enjoyable Easter, and I would like to welcome you all to our new term. At the start of every term, we reflect together on how we make a great start in our studies and personal development. An important part of the morning school way is being the best person we can be every lesson, every day. As we start this term remotely, this is even more important. We will continue with our commitment, resilience, and determination to ensure we stick with the strong study habits we've already developed during term 4. You'll hear in this assembly how your fantastic teachers and pastoral teams will help you to be the best person you can be. And Mr. Williams is going to take us through that.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're well, and I hope you've all enjoyed your Easter holiday as much as possible. Now, I know that many of you are missing school. I know many of you are missing your friends and having the structure of a school day. And however strange this may sound to some of you, I know this is the case because I've actually been receiving some emails from students stating exactly that. And what I want to talk about now for the next 10 minutes or so is about getting into a really good routine with regards to your home learning, because having a routine is essential. We're going to help you structure your day, and I'm going to talk through 4 brief things now about how you can structure your day. I want you to make sure that you're getting up at a set time every morning. And I've put there, for example, at 7:30 a.m. You need to make sure that you're checking your school emails every morning. Now, I'm sure the vast majority of you have got phones where you can check your emails. If you haven't got your phone, then maybe you have a computer or a laptop at home. But checking your school emails is absolutely essential, and I'm going to explain why that is so important in a minute. I want you to also make sure you're getting yourself ready for lessons to start at 9 o'clock. In fact, some of you may well even be listening to your head of house talking slightly earlier than that at 8:45. I will explain about that in a minute. And the last one is something that I've mentioned many times to students before, whether we are at home learning or whether we're at home, but getting to bed at a set time as well. I do not want you going to bed too late, because if you go to bed too late, then you find it difficult to get up in the morning, and actually getting up in the morning is part of that essential routine. Now, you can see there, your school day will start at one of 2 times, 8:45, and I'm going to use Curie as an example because I always work alphabetically. So C for Curie. If you're in C0, C1 or C2, Mrs. Jedrzejewski will be delivering a short message to you every single morning. She will be talking through what is going to happen during your tutor time, and then what lessons you have got for the rest of the day, just so that you are very clear about our expectations and what your routine should be. If you are in C3 or C4, your day is going to start at 9 o'clock with a message from Mrs. Jedrzejewski. Now, if you are in Key Stage 4, then there will be different assemblies held by Mrs. Hadmore. But you can see there that your school day will start with a short message from either Mrs. Jedrzejewski, Mr. Fielding, Mr. Barnes, or Miss Fulser. And as I just said, they're going to remind you about what it is you are expected to do during tutor time, and then for the rest of the day. And then at the very end of this, my part of this assembly, I'm going to be talking about your enrichment activity, which is part of reading and literacy that you will be doing at 3:30 every day, but I will talk about that later. Now, some of you may well be asking the question, how are you going to listen to your head of house speaking to you every morning? And the very simple answer is that you're going to be using a platform called Zoom. Some of you may already be familiar with this. You may have heard about it. Many of you may never have heard of Zoom before, but you will get very familiar with using Zoom, and it's actually a very simple way to access. You are going to be receiving an email every morning from your head of house. And as the term goes on, you may well be receiving emails from your classroom teachers as well. And on that email, you will see that you have a link. Now, I've highlighted that link in red. Very simply, all you need to do is click on that link. So for Mrs. Jedrzejewski's morning briefing as head of house, it will say Mrs. Jedrzejewski's Zoom meeting, and that will either be at 8:45 or 9 o'clock, and you just follow that hyperlink that I've highlighted there in red, and that will take you straight through to Zoom, and Mrs. Jedrajewski will do everything else, and then you will be able to listen to her live every morning, and that will be the same for every head of house. Now, the important thing is that you can do this on a laptop or a PC, but for your ease, you can also access this on your phone, and it works exceptionally well on your phone. All you do is just follow the hyperlink and it will take you straight to the meeting. Now, you will see that there is a timetable we have created for you. A routine is absolutely essential. And on Monday, you are going to be doing some personal development lessons from what has been called the Morling School Way resources. Now, the Term 5 personal development lessons are about important British people. And they're important people that I think we should all learn about. You are going to learn about their stories and see how their qualities and how they became important, great British people, and how their qualities value the Morling School Way qualities. There are 6 people you can see there: Ernest Shackleton, Winston Churchill, Millicent Fawcett, Isambard Kingdom Brunel, Charles Darwin, and Emmeline Pankhurst. Many of you will know about some of those people. Many of you, there are going to be people on that list that you've never heard of before. But you're going to learn about them in your personal development lessons, because I think your personal development is just as important as your academic levels, and it's something that I do not want to forget about, even though we are home learning and not on school site. You can access these very simply by going onto the school website, clicking on the home learning tab, and then going and following the links to everything there. So you can follow the Morling School Way and personal development. That will take you to Monday's lessons. Tuesday will be a live assembly. Your head of house will be delivering a live Zoom assembly every Tuesday. Once again, you check your school emails, follow the link so that you can join this assembly, and then your head of house will be talking to you either at 8:45 or 9 o'clock, but there will be instructions in the email about how you follow those assemblies. On Wednesday, you will be carrying on with your normal Period 1 PSHE lesson. Now, this lesson will normally be connected with the previous day's assembly, and that will be a PowerPoint, and there will be tasks and activities that you can complete on that Period 1 lesson. And once again, you go to home learning, go to the Morling School Way, and then you follow Period 1 and PSHE. And every week there will be a new Period 1 PSHE lesson for you to follow. On Thursday, something slightly different. Personal development. Sometimes a really easy way to develop and learn about new things is to listen to new music. And it may well be music that you do not normally listen to. And music can help you develop personally. I'm going to ask everybody to sit somewhere quiet when you listen to this piece of music, and it will be a piece of music that not many of you would ever normally listen to. It will be a famous piece of classical music from one of the famous classical composers listed below, either Holst, Vaughan Williams, Beethoven, or Mozart. On some of those, for example, the first lesson is on Holst. There are 2 videos, and there's some information there about why this piece of music is so important, and actually how it's even relevant today, and it's played every year in very important ceremonies. So you will listen to music appreciation by going to home learning, going to the Morling School Way, and then following the music appreciation tab. And then on Friday, we are very conscious that we want to make sure that everybody is healthy physically and mentally. And if you have ever felt a bit down or angry, upset, sad, or not very positive about things generally, some of you are genuinely missing school, mindfulness can help. Once again, I want you to sit somewhere quiet. I want you to follow the PowerPoint and follow all of the activities and the instructions and do the whole lesson, because everybody can benefit from mindfulness. Please trust me with this one. It will be something that some of you have never done before. Some of you I know have followed mindfulness in school with Mr. Solon in Period 1 lessons, but this is an opportunity for everybody to actually really spend some time focusing on their own mental health. And once again, you can access that home learning, Morling School Way, and then clicking on mindfulness and following the PowerPoint and the instructions there. You will finish your day at 3:30 by clicking on the reading and literacy tab. Now, your teachers, many of your very enthusiastic teachers have already recorded reading chapters from Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. You are going to be listening to a chapter every single day. So I want you to make sure at 3:30 you are accessing the reading and literacy. Those chapters will be live at 3:30, and each chapter is going to be read by a different teacher from the morning school. So that is a wonderful opportunity for you to develop personally and listen to a book being read that you may not normally listen to. But it's a wonderful opportunity for you, and make sure that you finish your day doing that, because it'll be a really good piece of personal development. For your information as well, and for your parents and carers, over the next 2 weeks, your parents and carers are going to be contacted by school, and they are going to be invited to have a live 5-minute video call with your tutor. It will be using the same parents' evening system that your parents and carers are used to using for our normal parents' evenings. We want to have that conversation with you face to face, albeit online, but we want to check that you're okay. And we're going to ask you the following questions. You can see those 7 questions there. So everybody will be expected to answer those. You will be on the screen with your parents or carers. And I want to draw your attention particularly to point number 6. You will be expected to show your tutor your home learning book. So please be prepared to show what work you have been doing by following the timetable and following the routine that I have already discussed, and Mr. Chidwick will remind you about in a few minutes. When you are listening to an assembly on Zoom, when you are listening to your head of house talking on Zoom, or when your teacher is delivering a lesson to you on Zoom, then your conduct and your behaviour is very important. Your behaviour online will continue to demonstrate very high standards, as it normally does. I'm always proud on a daily basis of the very high behaviour standards that the vast majority of you demonstrate all the time. This will continue during our live lessons. So there are 3 things there I want you to make sure you remember. Number 1, when you get used to using Zoom, you will always have your microphone muted unless your teacher tells you otherwise. You can type some comments to your teacher by using the chat facility, but they will be visible to your tutor and your teacher. And you will always have your video camera off unless the teacher asks you otherwise. Now, we talk about the morning school way, we talk about behaviour and showing very high standards. Please make sure you are maintaining those very high standards even when you are online. Many of you have already been emailing your tutors, your head of house, your teachers. As I said at the start of my assembly today, some of you have been emailing me as well. And if you are sending a member of staff an email, we expect you to continue to demonstrate very high standards. And there are some things I would like you to remind yourself about. So number 1, always address a teacher by their proper name. And I've put there just, for example, Mrs. Allison or Mr. Rocher. Rather than just writing Miss or Sir or Hi, address the teacher by their proper name. Please always use formal language and not text talk. This is a good opportunity for you to practice formal written emails. I've got an example of that on the next slide, but I also want you to make sure that you proofread your emails before you send them. So check for any spelling, punctuation and grammar mistakes. Check that words haven't been corrected using autocorrect, because that's something that a lot of people overlook. And when you've finished your email to a member of staff, always finish with a polite and a relatively formal statement. For example, kind regards or many thanks. So once again, even when you're communicating in written form, we expect you to follow the morning school way and demonstrate very high standards. So you've got an email on the left. That's not how we expect you to email. You can see there, that's very informal, abbreviations, text talk. Johnny has emailed Mrs. Allison. That's not the way you do it on the left. The email on the right, a very simple email, but showing very high standards. And you can see there, it says exactly the same message, but it does it in a more formal way, demonstrating high standards in the morning school way. So no text talk, no abbreviation, be formal. It doesn't have to be a super long piece of correspondence. It could just be a polite email showing very high standards. So that's what we expect you to do when you are emailing as well. Many of you sent through pictures of work that you have produced at home for the last 2 weeks of our home learning after school was locked down. And I've just put some pictures on here of some of the work that was completed at home by students. Some of you may well recognize your work here. We've got some history work that was emailed to me and one of the other history teachers showing really high standards. On the next slide, we've got some work from various subjects. We've got some from science and MFL. And you can see there that actually people are showing high standards, even using Hegarty maths. You can see somebody there has spent a considerable amount of time and they have achieved some wonderful results there, even using Hegarty maths. So even though you haven't written that out or you haven't got a photograph of the work you've produced, you can take a screenshot like this student did, send it to your teacher, and if they think it is a piece of excellent work, then they will forward it to me. And just like this example here, we will post that on our Gallery of Excellence. So an excellent piece of maths work there. And just looking at that presentation, I've shown you pictures of Gallery of Excellence work in previous assemblies, and it just goes to show that actually you can maintain these very high standards even when you are working at home, despite the fact that you don't have a teacher in front of you. So I want you to work really hard this lesson, maintain high standards, contact your teachers, contact your head of house if you need any questions answered. Familiarise yourself with Zoom, and there's going to be some excellent work produced in term 5. And if you do produce a fantastic piece of work that you're proud about, please email your teacher and then they will send that to me. And then when we have the end of term 5 assembly, hopefully I'll be showing some of your work in the presentation. Mr. Chidwick.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Term 5 Home Learning. So first of all, I'm going to go through some of the things you're going to get this term. You're going to have home learning packs sent home to every one of you, and you'll all receive those. Some of you may have started to receive them already, but if not, don't worry, they will be available soon. And they're also going to be put onto the website as well. Ms. Thetford will be emailing parents as well so that you have these electronically via email if you're struggling to access them. Working effectively. Mr. Williams has already been through some of these points. So we need to follow the guidance on slide 1 about setting up some structure and routine to your day. It's also important to be realistic. We want you to work hard. We don't want you to go through the motions. Although you're home learning without a teacher directly with you at your side, we still want you to get the most out of this experience. So it's important to work hard, but at the same time, rest and relax and spend time with your family. Also, as Mr. Williams said, you need to be checking your emails daily and contacting your teachers using the format as prescribed earlier by Mr. Williams if you have any questions. Year 11 and 13, it's a difficult situation that you find yourselves in. We want you to continue to follow the guidance from your teachers, complete any of the work that you haven't, any of the content that you haven't studied so far, which will help you ready for your next stage, whether that's the sixth form, whether that's off to university. Mrs. Hammond and Mrs. Chimanga will also be working with you in weekly assemblies and catching up with you to make sure you're ready to move on to the next stage. Also coming up at the start of term 6, so at the end of this term, we'll hear more about this, will be a cumulative assessment. Now, those in Key Stage 3, Years 7, 8 and 9 have already done this. You'll be completing an assessment in most subject areas, and this will check your understanding of term 5 home learning, and it will also test knowledge from previous terms and help your teachers not only identify misconceptions and areas of weakness, but it will help them to identify what needs to be taught in term 6 and in future years. You will get more information about this from your teachers as we go through the term. We will have more information for you in assemblies. It's important you continue to work through your home learning activities in preparation for these tests. They are there to help support you and develop you, not to catch you out or to test you or to trick you or to worry you. So don't worry about that. You'll hear more. I'm going to hand back to Mr. Bennett.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to finish by thanking everyone for taking the time to listen, and I would really encourage all of us together to take that great support that our fantastic staff are continuing to provide and keep working well. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.